My name is Jim Carlin. I'm a candidate for the United States Senate. I actually have a grandson who's going to be starting college next year. Right now, I think we have to have the self-awareness to know that the government's no longer serving us. It's robbing us. And the policies and the spending that we've seen have resulted in inflation and the restructuring of markets that are going to have profound impacts on your generation. And I want to tell you how. When I was a kid in the 70s, my father saw about 35 cents out of every dollar he earned went to the government, whether it was inflation, taxes, income tax, sales tax, property taxes. Do you know what it is now? It's 52 cents out of every dollar you are going to earn, directly, indirectly, is going to the government. That's not freedom, folks. That's not opportunity. That's not American dream. What's in my heart, my motivation for doing this, is to preserve the American dream for the next generation. And you have some very real threats to it that, unfortunately for you, were caused by the government. Let me just give you 3 examples. The housing market. Did you know that the price of houses have gone up 45% since COVID? Do you know why? The Federal Reserve's monetary policies flooded the housing sector with 0% interest loans in private equity and hedge funds, where now 35% of residential home purchases are by investors. That's going to present some real challenges to you when you graduate and you want to own a home. President Obama created Obamacare with the idea that it was going to make healthcare affordable. Did it? The reality is premiums have gone up 200 to 300%. The reality is it didn't make healthcare affordable, it monopolized it. 5 health insurance carriers now run healthcare in the United States. They have no incentive to listen to you. They have a lot of incentive to overcharge you. Their profits have gone up over 200% since its inception. That isn't serving you, it's enslaving you. Your student loans. Did you know that President Obama monopolized those? The federal government is the sole lender. Unfortunately for you, that doesn't give you free market options. That puts you in a tight space. And since that happened, the cost has doubled, and so have the interest rates. So I looked at some of your numbers today. About $50,000 a year, and I guess, after student aid, scholarship, maybe 30, 35. On average, you're going to be paying off that student loan for the next 15 to 25 years at $500 to $600 a month. That's not acceptable, but you need to see and have a reality-based look at the root causes from this government that are going to have an enormous impact on your standard of living. What would I do if you hire me? I'm here to apply for a job. We have to have sound money. We cannot have a fiat-based currency any longer that basically is a billionaire's tax when inflation. It's a billionaire's tax on the middle class. The money gets printed, the billionaires invest it, and we get the bill for the inflation. That's how it works. The Federal Reserve needs to be audited. We either balance the budget or we cap the money supply, reflecting the year's growth. And honestly, folks, we need to look at a return to a gold-backed or gold and silver-backed currency. Because the moment we departed from that, we saw a 20% increase in inflation, and it's gotten incrementally worse since. We do need to secure our border. The reason why, we had 20 million illegal aliens come into this country. We have to have a legal process. We are a nation of laws, and that is an issue of our sovereignty as a nation. And unfortunately for the taxpayers of this country, 60% of illegal aliens receive government assistance. That is a burden you are having to pay with the inflationary spending. It's not being mean, it's being honest. We have to put people ahead of the machine. We have to have term limits so we don't have these institutionalized career bureaucrat politicians. We think we're electing candidates. The reality, we're electing their donors. And their donors are the reason why we are $38 trillion in debt, why your economic security is being threatened. We have to get rid of super PACs. And we can't have incentivized corruption. We have to ban congressional stock trading, but we also have to keep family members of senators and congressmen out of the lobbying business. And if you agree to be a congressman or senator and you're fortunate enough to be elected, you should never be permitted to serve in the lobby. We have a responsibility to you as your parents, as your grandparents, to preserve your American dream. And that's what I'm going to do.
First question, how do you plan to support and strengthen higher education institutions, particularly small private colleges like Wartburg, while ensuring students have access to affordable, high-quality education?
We need places like Wartburg. And the reason why we need places like Wartburg, we do not want to have an educational process that has a cardboard cutout bureaucrat machine approach to education. We want children, our next generation, to be able to get the best footing on their dream and their destiny. When you have more choices, the quality improves. When there's less and less choices, the incentive to provide a great education diminishes with that. I think we need to look at, businesses have a thing, it's called a 175 startup expenditure. The government feels perfectly comfortable taxing you on your income that you earn when you go and get a job. How do they feel about tax deductibility of your tuition and the interest you pay on student loans? I think we need to look at that. I think student loan debt should be tax deductible, very honestly, because the government benefits enormously from it. I think parents that invest in your education, there should be tax incentives to underwrite it. But here's another thing. We cannot have the government being the sole lender to you guys because it takes your voice off the field and it has cost you dearly.
All right, second question. With the evolving demands of today's workforce, what specific policies or initiatives would you implement to better prepare college graduates for successful entry into the current job?
Sure. If you're going to pick a vocation, you have to understand all the economic realities associated with that choice. You have to know what your student loan debt looks like. When I looked at your student loan debt, it was intimidating. Why is it that a car loan for the same amount of money can be paid off in 5 years and you're paying off loans 10, 15 years later? It's in the structuring, it's in the deferments. Don't fall for that stuff because the interest keeps growing during those deferments. Don't be fooled by that. We need to have more truthful, honest disclosure about what you're in for and what are the best options for you to get out from under the weight of student loans as quickly and as efficiently as you can. We need to have some form of work experience going into jobs. There does need to be a pipeline. I mean, you actually have a pretty good placement rate here. It's like you have a 98% placement rate, which is excellent. But you also need to understand, like, if I want to have a house, I need health insurance, and I want to have children, let's get you some good information on the choice of your career, your economic realities, your student loan debt, what you're in for, just so you have the best information you can get your hands on before you pursue that course, so you know exactly what you're in for. And I think colleges should have some skin in the game on this, because your loans are non-dischargeable. You know what they do with the paper? They sell it as an investment because you can't get out from under the weight of it. It's privately managed, and they're pretty ruthless with you guys. I've watched it. There needs to be, there needs to be fairer lending practices by these private vendors and how they treat you, and giving our kids a real path. Listen, education shouldn't be indentured servitude. It should be a path to a dream that's affordable.
Shifting to audience questions, first on the economy. Knowing the impact of armed conflict on our economy, raising prices, do you support Trump's actions against Iran?
I wouldn't support a ground war. I am a U.S. Army veteran. There's some things you need to know about the Iran war that I don't think are getting a lot of play. Recently, Iran launched a ballistic missile into the Indian Ocean where we had a military base, 2,500 miles away. That was not known. They are definitely, most definitely, on a path to having a ballistic missile. Here's something else you probably don't know. They have 450 kilograms of enriched uranium, 60% enriched uranium that has no viable use other than the creation of a nuclear weapon. Those words came from the foreign minister himself. This isn't like Iraq, folks. This is a very real threat. And in a day and in an age where you can put a dirty bomb in a container and send it to a port city in the United States, we have to be honest about the realities of that. They are the world's leading sponsor of terror, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. President Trump has used what I would call a decapitation strike strategy, where he doesn't want the innocent people of countries engaged in a land war with our forces. He has gone directly for the head of the snake. And in doing so, he has placed in the minds and thoughts of those leaders to think very carefully about their actions. I think that is far more preferable than putting soldiers on the ground like we did in Iraq. I'm not a fan of a never-ending war that costs our economy trillions of dollars, but I can see some merit in what he's done. I just hope it doesn't escalate, because I don't know if it will, but that's my hope.
Shifting to healthcare now. Considering the impacts of cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, would you vote to maintain funding to those programs?
We have to have funding. Ronald Reagan said this. He said, "You take care of the people who can't take care of themselves." That's a value we all share. When I served in the Iowa legislature, I had a patient in Sioux City. He had to have more care. And when healthcare in Iowa was privatized, like the private sector health insurance took over Iowa's healthcare, I don't think it served the people of Iowa, honestly. I had to go to the human resources budget chair and say, "Hey, I've got a guy in Sioux City who's literally going to die if you guys cut his funding, and it won't take long for that to happen." You have to meet the realities of where people are, and you have to be fair, and you have to be compassionate. You cannot have a cutthroat approach to healthcare. I do medical malpractice. Your physicians have to pre-authorize every test. When you need a good diagnostic workup, it hinders it. And unfortunately, the monopoly that's been created isn't serving you. It's hurting you. We now have people with $15,000 deductibles. Why? The insurance carriers aren't paying for your care anymore. Our health care is being defined by insurance carriers. And there is no upside to that. When we lose our voice in when free market is gone, the middle class, the working people, they're the first ones to suffer when they have a health issue.
Finally, on the environment and agriculture, what is your biggest plan to support agriculture in the future?
You know, the biggest problem agriculture, let me just say, the clean water nitrate issue is real. It is a problem. It needs to be worked out. I think it needs to be worked out voluntarily and not with mandates. Our farmers are facing the toughest year they've had since the 1980s. I think one of the worst things you can do is overregulate it. So if we are spending so much money cleaning the water up, and listen, I know the reality is right now in the Mississippi, the mouth of the Mississippi, they have the highest cancer rates in the country. Glyphosate, which is produced in Muscatine, they have the highest cancer rates in Iowa. That has been banned in 30 other countries. We need to look at the reality of that. Our farmers right now are basically contract labor because on the input side, there's such market concentration that they don't have a voice. If they have no voice, if they have no individual market voice, it becomes a take it or leave it proposition for them. And unfortunately, we have monopolies in the meatpacking industry, the grain traders, and on the input side, we need to initiate antitrust prosecutions to break up these monopolies. We need to deregulate agriculture to where farmers can sell their stuff locally and across state lines. So right now, if you want to open up a locker, you have to have an FDA meat inspector there, a USDA meat inspector there. You have to check all these federal regulatory boxes, and here's the problem. We're the ones that suffer, economically because we don't have that access to a market that should be available to us. So I think antitrust prosecutions and the deregulation of agriculture and a meaningful, engaged takedown of the market concentration on inputs, on meatpacking and on grain traders needs to be initiated if we're going to save the family farm. 28,000 family farms are disappearing every year, folks. That's not acceptable, and the government has a lot of the blame to show for that.